So there's a number of areas I'd like to discuss with you. One is Northern Foods philosophy. So why have they got something as strange as the Director of Corporate Social Responsibility, if you're still awake at the end of the title, and certainly it's quite a long business card. What is it we do, and how are we going to make sure we maintain our competitiveness and keep growing in that 10 billion section that you saw we put up? So if I start with what we do, I'm not sure how many of you know about us. Certainly be surprised if the gentleman from Turkey's ever heard of us. So I'll give you a little bit of background, the minister rather from Turkey. So I'll give you a little bit of background. Northern Foods are one of the major players in the UK food market. We have 20 manufacturing sites, 4 offices. We turn over more or less £1 billion. We don't make enough profit, but that's life as ever. And we employ 10,000 people. Our aim is to make sure that we continue to serve our shareholders. And by doing that, we have to manage ourselves in a sustainable manner. Okay, so that's a little bit of our background. If I turn you into what is CSR, what is corporate social responsibility inside of Northern Foods, we call it enlightened self-interest. And the way that we work is very, very much along the Cadbury's model. So if you think back to the late 1800s when Cadbury's were first around and first established, they had a significant number of competitors. There were over 200 chocolate manufacturers in the UK. Why are Cadbury's well known and work well today? Well, they spotted a gap in the market. They decided if they gave people chocolate, drinking chocolate rather than alcohol, there was a gap there. So they found this niche in the market, they exploited the niche, and with the profits that they made, they then created a place called Bourneville. They then invested the profits that they made in terms of housing their people properly, training their people properly, making sure health and safety was correct. Guess what that all did? Increased profits. And then became a self-fulfilling prophecy. We've taken that model. Inside Northern Foods, CSR is not philanthropy, it is not charity, it is exactly what it says on the bottom of that slide, increased sustainable cash flow. And if you look across the top, there's nothing there that you wouldn't do. Why would you not make sure that you waste less? Why would you not invest in your staff, especially if the government are paying for it? And these guys in the Grimsby Institute have managed, I'll give you one example, they've managed at one of our sites, which is the Batley Biscuit site, in completing 14 projects, they've made a difference of close to £750,000 to our bottom line over the last year. Why would you not do it? Okay, so that's our philosophy. If it's got a business case, we will. If it's just charity or my latest flavour or the chief exec's latest fad, we won't. So our whole philosophy is based on business case. Why are we even bothered? If you go back to the really, really big picture, if we take it all the way up to what's actually happening globally, there is a brilliant book that I would recommend everybody in the room reads. I'm beginning to think I should be on a retainer or commission or something from Amazon for this book. The guy who wrote it's called Jeremy Sachs. It's called Commonwealth Economics of a Crowded Planet. Now, I had no idea who Jeremy Sachs was. I'm talking to a very intelligent audience. You have obviously heard of him. He's a UN policy advisor, UN economist, and he was also the economist at Harvard Business School. Cracking man, much more intelligent than I'll ever be. He shows you what's currently happening and how we can solve everything that's around at the moment with a bit of hard work and a bit of focus. And it's just refreshing to understand that we can do something through productivity, through everything that we work on, and actually make a difference, because the facts are frightening. We're going to have a third more people, we're going to need 50% more food, we're going to need 40% more energy, and the really, really scary one is the last one, 30% more water. Well, I know we're blessed in Grimsby, and we're blessed in Yorkshire because it normally rains a fair amount. This is going to have an impact on our supply chain. So we need to make sure we handle our resources, we husband our resources, we make the best use we can. So that's why, as a company, we're interested. We can run our business sensibly, we can make more money, and we do the right thing. Okay, well, moving on a little bit. What do we do? And I thought I'd keep a fish theme. I've got a picture here of our factory in Carlisle, where we make the best tasting fish cakes with melt in the middles. Couldn't resist, couldn't resist.
I'm an industry representative.
Okay, well, they are great product. And you can see here, a fairly highly automated factory. Not many people kicking around. Right? We have small teams that are very well focused. What we have in here is a fairly complex product. It's got potato, it's got fish, it's got fat, it's got salt, it's got the odd spice in there. We boil things, we steam things, we chill things, we freeze various areas. We then take it through a logistics chain we can then all enjoy at home. It's fairly complex. And what we're trying to do is make sure that at each stage we are being sustainable. So how do we make sure that we keep that sustainability? Well, one of the things we do is we measure everything. If you don't stand still, we'll measure you. If you do stand still, we'll measure you. Because going back to the old management mantra, what gets measured gets done. So we have lots of different measures. At one point, far too many, so we've simplified it. Because as everybody knows, you can get lots and lots of data, but it's only when you turn it into information and then actually activity that you make a difference. So in Carlisle, on that particular line, what you can see on the slide up here is a bespoke piece of kit that the engineers designed and delivered. Why did they do it? Well, they designed and delivered it because that, believe it or not, is how we boil our potatoes. Looks a bit different to my pan at home, but it has exactly the same impact. And what the guys and the engineers did was use their intellect, have a look at the piece of kit, and really increase its productivity. The kit that you saw on the previous chart started to measure exactly how much water we needed to use at exactly what temperature. Why? Because it's given us a saving of 54% in the amount of water we use and 8% in the amount of energy we use. Now, I'm game on for that. The piece of kit cost 200 quid and the guys about a week and a half to work up. Brilliant use of their intellect. Where I'm going to move to now is which areas do we and don't we focus on. And I'm going to talk to you about a tool that we use internally, a tool that's we've selected from Camco Company. If you look at the slide up there, we spend £24 million a year on energy. Now I know my energy bill at home is high, but at least it's nowhere near that one. To put that in perspective, in last year's annual report, we delivered profits of £48 million. So does that give you an idea of how important these numbers are? Yeah? So it's a massive task, and we all know which way energy is going to go. So we all get our bills at home, and we all see what's happening. And as much as my procurement team would love to beat up the suppliers, the price is only going to go upwards. We need to do something. We're also very well supported by Carbon Action Yorkshire and Yorkshire Forward, who've given us lots of help to have a look into the various different areas so we deliver the 80% target by 2050. So what have we done? Our initial focus, and this is the tool by Camco, this is a really interesting tool. You can see on the left the kilowatt hours, and you can see a chart running along in time as to how many kilowatt hours each of our business units use. And you have a look at that and you go, and there's a little line on the top that gives you the target. We should always be below the target, which is based on regression analysis that I'll show you later. So what does that tell you, Paula? Nice little pretty colour graph. What are we going to do with it? Well, if we play with the chart, which this tool lets us do, we can then start having a look at who's using which amount of electricity. And you suddenly notice that those rascals who are in like a salmony pink are using more and more. So what are we going to do now that we've analysed that they're the ones that are using a bit more? And who are those rascals? Well, you may have seen them most days. They're people who make Fox's biscuits. Okay, so